Welcome, everyone. We are live on Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Telegram. This is episode 3 of season 2 of Campaign for America with Dennis Andrew Ball. And with that being said, let me read our disclaimer and we will get right into the intro, and then Dennis can do some housekeeping. The views expressed on this show are expressly the views of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views, beliefs, or opinions of News for Us World, its hosts, broadcasters, or affiliates. Remember, folks, always use your own discernment when viewing. We encourage our viewers to think for themselves. And hello, we are here. We are live. Episode 3, Season 2 of Campaign for America. And let me share my screen and we'll get right into the intro, folks.
In 1980, Ron wore a white suit, a red tie, and a white shirt and addressed the nation. Hi, I am Dennis Andrew Ball, and I am running for President of the United States. I am talking to you right now because the debates that were conducted this week need to have a presidential response. The economic issues that both Barack Obama and Mitt Romney answered created in the minds of many of us unanswered questions of how do you sustain economic growth in the United States of America. In light of the decisions and the events that have happened since 2008, what do we need to do to reduce the deficit, increase job creation, maintain Social Security and Medicare, and provide the opportunity for our children and future generations not only to survive, but to thrive in a global economy. I would like to talk to you quickly on how I perceive what needs to happen. The United States of America at this time is suffering because the means of production have not equaled the ends of production that it requires in order to sustain its middle class. The United States of America must reindustrialize itself to make it possible that 23 million Americans can go back to work in industries that are productive for themselves and their families. What we are witnessing on a daily basis is the demise of the American family, the traditional American family, of children, parents, and grandparents, by people in authority who have used, abused, and misused their positions to hurt our people. This must stop, and it will under my administration. The need at this moment of time is to get our organs of power in business to invest in research and development to make it possible for industry to not only survive in America, but also to thrive. My attitude is that the production capability of the United States is equal to none. Our workers are very productive if given the opportunity, but they must be protected by government that concerns themselves with their best interests. And that has been a problem for many years in this country. My attitude also is that in order for our people to get themselves in a position to care for themselves and their children, we have to evaluate at this moment in time what is important for that to happen. And I believe that it will be more of a decision on the part of the American people when they go to the voting booth to decide who they think is best qualified to do that job. I believe also that we are in a position to make decisions that will impact the course of history and to bring about positive change in the lives of our family structure. I want to say that in order to do that, the means of production will have to be a top priority to reindustrialize the middle class and to provide the support for the future generations.
Right.
I want to say this, that in terms of how we go about this business, the President of the United States should be very aware of what has happened and what needs to happen. My interest at this time is to educate through my administration of candidacy for presidency to make it possible for you to learn more about me and to decide if you are better off since the election of Barack Obama and the changes that need to happen in terms of the increase in gas prices, in food prices, the mortgage forfeitures that have happened since him, and also what we will do in the future to make it possible for more people to be employed out of 23 million who are not. Consider this opportunity to communicate to your friends and your neighbors my thoughts, and I look forward to hearing from you. I need presidential electors who will vote for me through the Electoral College when I win the states in this country to become your next president. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
All right, go ahead and do some housekeeping, Dennis.
Okay, Stephen. A lot of things have been going on. Quickly, I had my gallbladder removed Saturday after being in the hospital since last Tuesday, which was I believe the 18th, I believe. So yeah, because that would have been Wednesday. So Wednesday morning. Anyway, make a long story short, they kept me in. Saturday I got it done, and today I've been released, and we're on the mend. So that's all good. Now, your good work has provided an opportunity from episode 2 to move forward on 2 fronts. One is Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and Stephen Colbert. With the book, full disclosure, we are not alone. This is a topic of current interest that these people want to explore. I'm the first presidential candidate, and listen to me, people, the first presidential candidate to come out telling the world we are not alone. That's huge. That is huge, Steve. And so I expect something positive will happen. I'll be flying to New York. I'll be flying to LA on these shows, and I'll be bringing my book with me. You have a copy, Steve. We probably should do a show sometime on it. In the meantime, that's huge. Okay, the other thing is, the last show we did, like this show, is we covered a lot of ground in terms of the campaign. And then about, I'd say 15 minutes, we talked about the AI revolution that is impacting China and other countries, bringing industry back to the United States. I'm getting positive feedback from people who know me, are very critical thinkers, have been very critical of me and are now supporting me. How about that?
There you go.
They're saying, he's right. Tennis ball's right. It's very important.
Oh, you muted yourself, Dennis.
And so as a consequence, we're getting in the catbird seat, buddy. And now Murray Edwards out of Alabama wants to give us a platform to put our show on, so it'll go even reach further into the mass media. That's huge. We are incrementally making our way into the mainstream. I knew it. I knew if we stuck it out the course, we will get there. We are getting there. And I spoke with Ann Wozniak today from Michigan, our Michigan State campaign manager, who is of a attitude that I need to have 35% polling to be on the debate stage with whomever they erect on the presidential debates. That is in motion as well. We are doing a coup d'etat on the United States electorate. We are coming in from behind, and we are making history. And when I go to New York, to the United Nations, I expect I will be on these platforms and I'll be interviewed. Diane Diamond is interested in my book, Guardianship Gulag, Part 1 and Part 2, that I will be busy here. I'm back in Melbourne, Florida, campaigning. And so they have libraries here too. And of course, down south is Jupiter, Boca Raton, also the libraries at Florida Atlantic University. There's 9 campuses. And so that's all part of the deal. Those books will show exactly how treacherous American culture has become, how anti-God it has become. My God. And we must change this now, people. It is our duty to our children and generations to come. I am not going to sit here and pablam this problem. It is a serious one. Ann Wozniak lost 5 kids to CPS, Child Protective Services. She is on board. She is a warrior. She knows exactly how evil this is. And she is all in. So is Tali Vasquez out of Minnesota. Tali has a video out there for YouTube inside the Minnesota Capitol campaigning for myself and the party. That's huge. We are making history. It's exciting, Stephen.
It is. And Brian Gaudier is watching. I want to give a shout out to him. Thank you for watching, bud.
Who's that?
Brian Gaudier. He's watching right now. I just wanted to give a shout out to him.
Awesome. Yes, I see you have the live line.
Yeah, he's on Facebook watching live.
And I will shout out to you, Brian. Brian, keep up the good work, buddy. We are making history. This is exactly what it's going to require to change the culture. It's like an asteroid being deflected out into space. And we are the laser force to do that. Praise God. We must do that. It is our duty to do that. If not us, who? So
We definitely have to be proactive in our efforts in becoming involved in our communities and start running for positions because nobody else is going to do it for us. If we allow these corrupt officials to keep doing what they're doing, we're not ever going to have any change.
well, yes, and we are sliding deeper and deeper into a dictatorship. This is what happened with the Nazi Party.
I think we're already there. Unfortunately, I think we're already in that dictatorship, in my view, based on what I've seen.
Well, yeah. I mean, hey, the good news is we are the resistance. We are the French. And we are the French resistance because we must. Listen, we are citizens of the United States of America. We have a proud nation, a proud history, a proud heritage. You look at the white crosses of the men and women who have died for our rights, who thought well enough of the country and the nation, from sea to shining sea, to put themselves out there in front of enemies, both foreign and domestic. I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and do nothing about this. Be a pablum on the hill, somebody sitting around looking. That's what I see all the time. Go to Walmart, Target. There are parents with children. Praise God for that. But they're so stupid. They're silly. My God, there's a fire around them. They just act impervious, like it doesn't exist. It is what it is. Okay, but I don't care.
A big result of the conditioning that's been forced upon us through the mainstream, through the narrative, et cetera, and the apathy that's been allowed to fester. I think that's
exactly. This is what happened in Nazi Germany from 1920 to 1940 when they invaded Poland and went on to Czechoslovakia, Hungary, France, attacked Britain, almost won it. Europe was in their palm. So this is how they operate. Now we've got this other Nazi, Klaus Schwab, with the World Economic Forum, his great reset out of Davos, Switzerland. And he wants to turn us into his little monkey slaves and change our DNA. He is nothing but a Nazi.
Did you hear about the leaders that were invited to the couple of world leaders that were invited to Davos not too long ago, and they called out the WF and said, "You are part of the problem." It was incredible. I've never seen anybody like that call them out before on their own stage, but they did. So I mean, that in itself shows that people are getting fed up with it, I think.
Well, they are. They're a bunch of dictators, oligarchs run the show, and everybody else is their little slave, serf, employee, including the President of the United States, Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, even Putin, and Xi, believe it or not, from China. This is all a conspiracy to kill the world's population. And you got a monkey like Bill Gates, who has it in his agenda to create factories, to create vaccines, the vaccines with COVID-19 and whatever else they want to include in there. Particles of metal, particles of COVID, get everybody jazzed up for a vaccination so that they can go away. We've got more people dying from the vaccine than ever before.
We do.
Wake up, people. Get smart. Stop being a stupid fool. Start doing the research. Start asking questions. Start doing the critical thinking. Stop being an idiot. It's a fact. And people don't like the way I talk. Well, it's too bad. These are the facts. They got to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Oh, it's always controversial.
The information's out there, so there's no reason why we can't do a simple Google search or internet search to find what you're looking for. And if you're not able to do that, then there's no excuse other than being lazy. So let's get to it, folks. If we want change, we need to start looking into stuff for ourselves, start figuring out what's true, what's not ourselves. Use your own discernment, use your own critical thinking, and get to the bottom of these things because we all have the power and the capability of doing so. The real question is, are we going to do it?
Right. Now, let me ask you this. There's a live call on line 702-482-8620. Is Brian still on the line?
He's still watching, yes, as far as I know.
Hey, Brian, why don't you call in? I want to talk to you.
Yes, please do. 702-482-8620.
Right on. Okay, so that's good. That's good what we're doing here today. And part one, well, episode 2, I consider as part 1 of today's show. Episode 3 is part 2 because this will be a continuation talking about AI as it relates to creating reshoring of industrial jobs back to the United States. Over $100 billion has been reinvested by corporations to bring industry back to America. Praise God. So that's going to give a notice to China that America is doing something about the divergent imbalance of job creation in this hemisphere. They don't like it because they have been benefiting tremendously. And that's one thing I will give Donald Trump, credit for, that he was able to reverse some of this through the tariffs. And then, by the way, the tariffs still exist on products and services that come in from China. In order for China to compete, they have to pay to compete. But it's more than just competing. It is manufacturing. It is industrialization. You see what I say at the beginning of the show, reindustrializing America's middle class. Every nation should be industrializing itself for its children, parents, and grandparents, for its moms, dads, and kids, to provide a job, J-O-B, a living wage job that will provide the support for the family. God created the family. I didn't.
Oh, Brian's calling in. Is this Brian?
Brian for Stephen Phillips.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press.
Hey, Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey,
Hi.
Brian. Hey, hi. Yes, sir. Busy. I think you and I have talked the last 2 weeks, incrementally. I was in the hospital over the weekend and I had my gallbladder removed, and now we're out and about. But the good news is Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm doing well.
Pardon?
Hey, we're happy to hear that you're out and doing well.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's an honor. God still sees me in the game. Or it'd be easy for him to cut it off, and everybody else will have to scurry. But see, it's God who we're dealing with, and that's nothing better than that. Okay, so you can see we are in a crisis. It is a crisis. It's a real crisis. And Brian, I'm really honored that you're in the crisis with us to give your area the support. Tell us about Missouri. What's happened since we last had a chance to talk? I know you were busy with being a trucker, and is there anything going on as far as events that we've talked about, creating events in Missouri? There's going to be an opportunity here for that. It's going to come soon too.
So there's a lot going on in Missouri, just like there is other states. We're dealing with a lot of corruption as we're seeing across the nation right now. Of course, the corruption is going to deny it. That's what they do. They cover it up. That's their whole entire scheme. one thing that I've said from day one, and I'll continue to say until there's accountability, the corruption is going to continue to grow. So, with everything that we have going on, we're seeking accountability, not just here in Missouri of those responsible, but all across the state. The family courts are just a mess. The criminal courts are a mess. It's time for some integrity to be restored to the judicial system and our government.
It is.
Okay. Yes.
Absolutely. We need that accountability and transparency before we can even begin to heal as a society. I mean, I think that's where we're at now. It's how bad it's become.
And it's disappointing when we have some irrefutable proof. And like we just made a group of us, when you go to law enforcement and they don't do anything for you, then you're left going, so victims are out here and help now, and that's not the America that we should be living in.
Right. Reminds me of the Russian bourgeoisie, pre-1917, Lenin, Vladimir Lenin. Now we have Vladimir Putin, the reorganization of the Communist Party. But it has come to our shores. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm down here not far from Orlando. And earlier last year, Nazis were parading with Nazi swastika flags in Orlando during, I believe it was Veterans Day, something like that.
Oh, geez.
And it's because our country, its values, its people have declined significantly. But I'm also of an attitude that we can change this by showing them that they're wrong. Now, whether they are wrong in their own mind or they're right, ultimately it's going to be a situation, in my opinion, that God is going to have to intervene, period. We can bring it so far. He's got to bring it in. And in order for that to happen, he's got to do it. So praise God. Now, unless it's a national security matter, that's where the Army and the military is, which I don't understand where they are right now with this border. This is invasion. Why aren't they there with the 5th or 8th Army? Eisenhower did it. Why aren't they doing it? I think it's a legitimate question. And let me say this too, okay? Trump is no better either. Let me tell you something. During the time he was president, he had a chance to go down there on that border, and he'd been there before and I think after. But the time he had an opportunity to really make a show of force, he jets over to England to meet the Queen. That's bullshit, man. I'm telling you right now. That is no good. He had a chance to be able to crystallize and fortify his position as the president, and he blew it. I told him that in an email. I told him he should be very aware of his position in the hierarchy. He was not a politician when he came in. I think he has become a politician since he's been in, and now he's trying to get back in. But I don't see him, and I'll be honest with you people, I don't see him prosecuting the criminals in D.C. If he does, I would be shocked.
Dennis, a lot of politicians out here are telling the people, the American people, we the people, what we want to hear, and look at the back of their head. We never see them again, and they never act on what it is they're going to do to benefit with the, to benefit we the people. There's definitely a border crisis. And I want to call this out to everybody. When most people think of a border crisis, they immediately think of the Mexican border. It's not just happening there. It's not just happening on the Canadian border. We have people coming over on other forms of transportation on our coast, through our coastline. And, I won't say what state, but I did talk to a federal agent here the other day, and we were talking about the problem at our borders and the mass influx of people coming over, and they don't know what to do with them. And they said, we have to have these programs in place. We're talking about like the court-related acronyms that are out there to assist, because those programs are all that we have. They may not be foolproof, they may not be working, but it's all that they have. So we need to focus on the entire system, departments. There needs to be accountability in there. Maybe we need to revamp things, restructure. Not saying recreate the wheel, but if things are outdated, maybe we need to update some policies and procedures and start holding people accountable. When our own government keeps allowing people in and they're not vetting the people coming in, we're letting them prior persistent offenders. That's a huge problem.
A huge problem. Absolutely, it is.
I agree. We don't have an event yet, but it could be coming. And it's because this government seems not to care about its people and its nationhood. All of our cities who are being run by radicals are fodder for these type of people. Remember, it's terrorists, both foreign and domestic. So my attitude is we must be the resistance. We must respond. We must get ourselves in a position to deal with this and to bring God back into America, as well as policies that will work in the family's interest. So, I appreciate, the time that we're spending here, Brian. I'm going to go ahead now and get into the monologue of the show a little bit, talking about AI and what we can expect in the future. And with that, I'm going to go to what I was talking about last time from the information that I shared from the information that I received. And so just bear with me, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But yeah, folks, Dennis was talking last week about the AI and how it's actually began to the efficiency of that has brought some jobs back to the United States as well as the tariffs. But he's talking about the AI and how that's eliminating a lot of the automated or a lot of labor work, and it's actually bringing jobs back to the United States in that regard, which was wholly unexpected, but it makes sense if you think about it.
Well, there's no doubt that it's eliminating jobs all without naming the manufacturer that was inside of a plant. And there was some automation going on, but now it's gone to be automated. And people are left having to consider their choices and what they're going to do next.
Right, right. What do you think about AI, Brian? What do you? Because I know it could be a useful tool if used properly, but it can also be a double-edged sword, and it can be dangerous if we don't keep an eye on it.
May not be exactly apples to apples here, but I consider that medical field. The medicine, it can be used, for very good things, or it can be used against us. Hence, what we've got going on with COVID. I just personally think that if it's used for the benefit of profit, not to help the people, then it's.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's being used for the wrong reasons by the wrong people.
Absolutely.
Okay, now there is this article by a gentleman. His name is Sean Broderick. He says, I've been featured on networks as different as CNBC and Fox News because of my long track record for predicting global events and showing investors the best ways to take advantage of them. My team and I called the 2008 financial crisis ahead of time. We called the start of the roaring bull market that followed as well. We predicted the election of Donald Trump a year ahead of time, while most experts were still poo-pooing his chances. Okay, hold on. and I predicted the recent Russian invasion of Ukraine and its effect on the stock market. Now I believe we're going to see a mass exodus of foreign businesses from China. So I'm going to go over this, okay? I think it's really important because we're right in the mix of a change, historic change for our people. And that's what I've wanted. I prayed for this, okay? In fact, 90% of global corporate executives say they are in the process of moving production out of China or have plans to do so. Apple, Amazon, Volvo, Samsung, Google, Microsoft. These are just a few of the big names who are disappearing from China. And in this article, he has a picture of a building in China, factory it's abandoned. It's like, looks like nobody's been in it for 20 years. Okay, now it says, and now Wall Street, which was China's biggest cheerleader in the West for years, is souring on the country. Wall Street, that's huge. JP Morgan, Chase, even called Chinese stocks uninvestable before they backpedaled and labeled them merely unattractive. So where are all these jobs and money going? Hear this? Well, you might have heard some talk about India or Vietnam and Malaysia. And that's a fact. I bought products that's got the labels on it from these different other countries, not USA. And yes, a fraction of these jobs have found their way to cheaper third world countries. But when I really dug in and chased the money, I found that most of it was going to a surprising place. And he goes in and he talks about the last 12 months, 200 billion manufacturing investment has flooded into this country. He's talking about America, but he's not identifying the country yet. Soon it will grow by 10 times to over 2 trillion. Obviously, this type of monetary shift can change the fortune of whole countries, let alone individual investors savvy enough to spot this massive shift ahead of time. So what country is it? He says, I'm not talking about anywhere in Europe, and it's not Canada or Australia or Europe, anywhere like that. Give up. Believe it or not, I'm talking about right here in the good old US of A. That's right. Trillions of dollars, hundreds of factories, and thousands of jobs coming back to America. Woohoo! If you notice on my campaign material, starting way back, 2008, I talked about living wage jobs. And many people said, you're screwed. Never happened. Because so many people have been working on minimum wage jobs. I've been a voice out here in the wilderness, but it's coming in. It's coming in, Brian. It's coming in, Stephen. We are getting this done. Praise God. That's right. Trillions of dollars, hundreds of factories. A new industrial boom is beginning in America, and at China's expense, no less. That's one reason they're really pissed. And they're down here off the coast of Florida and Cuba monitoring our military because they know we're on to them. All those balloons that they sent up over the western United States, as well as into Canada, that was all part of their way of keeping tabs on what we are doing. They're very insecure people. Of course, they have their social credit scores, they have some AI too, to again tracking people, tracking whether people in their own country are doing what they say they must do, and if they the people don't do what they must do, they're in trouble. So it's very easy. I mean, tearing down churches, tearing down mosques, putting people in re-education centers, Stephen, like Gestapo death camps.
Yeah, that's not right.
Well, this is the direction. I mean, we even have FEMA camps in the United States right now too.
Yep.
Jesse Ventura has been out to them. He's investigated. He was a governor of Minnesota. He said JFK's assassination was a coup d'etat. There's a lot of unknowns here, but that's okay. Now, he says that a new industrial boom is beginning in America and at China's expense, no less. Not only that, this manufacturing return to America, what some are calling reshoring, could enrich a few companies as well. I'll explain in a moment. But first, I want to give credit where it's due. We have Donald Trump to thank for this windfall in investment and jobs. He was the first president in my lifetime to really call a spade and point out China's unfair trade practices. And I give some credit to Trump. He's a divisive person, but he came out from a business atmosphere, and not to say that I couldn't have been equally and would have been equally, if not better, in his 4 years, and especially dealing with Anthony Fauci, that Nazi.
He fired him,
Certainly.
didn't he? If I remember correctly.
I'm not sure, but I know Fauci's gone. He got so much hell. I know Rand Paul went all over him.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, during his administration, didn't he fire Fauci at one point? If I remember correctly, I think.
Could have. I'm not sure. Okay, free trade. Now it says free trade only works when everyone plays by the same rules. China was breaking those rules for years, and to be very blunt, greedy. Short-sighted people in America allowed them to get away with it. You hear that? See, we knew that. We knew that they weren't playing fair. We knew that. I've said that all along, incidentally. Okay, this is something not new with me. I've known this, and I've written about it in my books. You want the proof? Look at the Ball Doctrine. Creating a middle class in every nation. How can you have a middle class in every nation if every nation is kowtowing to China's Silk Road?
Can't.
Giving up their resources for some paper money. I mean, this is the problem. There's a lot of ignorance, and there's a lot of leveraging of money with these countries. You put it in your own personal life, the way that they strong arm people. Well, these nations strong arm nations. I think of Rhodesia, Zimbabwe in Africa. They have some of the richest diamond mines in the world. China has gone in with the attitude, we want those for our mining, our manufacturing, our chip manufacturing as well. So a lot of applications for this. And then if they can't return the money that they were borrowed with, then they take the industry from the nations. And there you are. So we have another Nazi conspiracy to defraud the world of its resources. And I'm going to say that this all goes back to Davos, to getting Klaus Schwab and his minions and the bankers in a position with the oligarchs to control the fucking world. What say you?
I'm not surprised because, like, if you look back in history at World War II, wasn't it a bunch of American companies that backed the Nazis back then too? It's like it's like almost a repeat in a lot of ways.
Right. Like, it's a continuation of Hitler's Mein Kampf. He wanted to rule 1,000-year Fourth Reich, where his great generation, the mass race, the human race, the superior race, blue-eyed, blonde-haired children, Yet he was brown-haired, brown-eyed.
Yeah,
Yet
I know that in and of itself doesn't make any sense, does it?
no, it's propaganda.
Exactly.
They wanted to use the Vikings, the Swedes, the Scandinavian nations to say, this is where you came from. This is where you're from. You are a superior race. You're the master race. That's what they believe. They're the masters. We're the serfs. They're very, very arrogant people.
Planet has. I know it's ridiculous, isn't it? Every human being on this planet has a right and should be treated equally under. We should
Under God's laws.
All treat. Yeah, exactly. We all need to be. Freaking. It's wrong. It's wrong.
Right. In any race that wants to take over another race, I mean, even from the black race taking over the white race, Black Lives Matter comes to my thought right now. I mean, I graduated University of California at San Diego. That institution is paying Black Lives Matter $2.5 million, I believe, since, what is this, 2024? I think it was 2017, 2018, when Trump was president. These 3 Marxist black women in LA buying houses, mansions, were getting funded by corporations as well as educational universities. And this is what was funding Black Lives Matter. All of these riots, burning down buildings, killing people. It all came from the Communist Manifesto. They believe that.
Yeah.
They believe they're the superior race. I'm being candid with you folks.
It's ironic how they like. But that's the same. That's still racism. No matter what way you cut it, you're still being prejudiced against another race, and being and thinking that you're superior, regardless of what the dynamic is. That's still racism, people. For those that aren't aware, that by definition, that's racism.
It is, and it's the big lie. I mean, I've written a book called United Nations Agenda 21, The Big Lie. And it's right in the book. And the realities are that racism.
Dennis, if you don't mind me interrupting, can you let some of the people, the viewers that might be watching that don't know about Agenda 21, let them know exactly what Agenda 21 is?
Yes. Please do.
Sure. Yes, Agenda 21 talks about domination, reset, world domination. That started in 1992. George Herbert Walker Bush was in Rio de Janeiro. There is a woman, I don't know her name, it's in the book, but she formed this group called Agenda 21 from the UN out of New York. There was a conference there in Rio de Janeiro for the world's leaders. They mapped out a plan to create a one world government. George Herbert Walker Bush, was of an attitude that you could achieve basically a dictatorship on the basis of 1,000 lights. In other words, the world would be divided into what he wanted people to believe was the possibility that human beings could be controlled and moved into different aspects of their personal life and their professional life at the expense of their family life and their nation sovereignty. George Herbert Walker Bush was somewhat like Woodrow Wilson.
Part of the Uniparty. Globalist.
Yes, a globalist. And Agenda 21, The Big Lie I've written, talks about depopulation, sustainable development, renewables, and getting into the changes they want. Stack and pack. Nobody owns any property. Nobody owns a car. You're in a condo. you can walk to your job. It's ridiculous. The rights that have been fought and died for don't exist. The state is everything. God is nothing.
Opposite of what this country was founded upon.
Exactly. It's nothing more than a takeover. And all of this I have discovered in my own research has shown and continues to show that there is a huge problem, but it has to be exposed. And they definitely are on the local level, the city or county level, with the mayors and the councils going in, making proposals to incrementally take away our rights, our property rights, making proposals and grants, getting money to do some form of retrofittation of downtown areas, cordoning off other areas that could provide, I want to say, beyond just adequate housing, excellent housing for families where you own a home, you own a car. My attitude is until you own your castle, you cannot realize the benefits of capitalism, especially free enterprise capitalism. Let's see, the gentleman, Mr. Smith, forget his, gosh, the gentleman who created capitalism, Mr. Smith, I will just leave it at that. His attitude was that the means of production will support the ends of production, so that your property, your money, your pension, your future was and is secure. They don't want that. They want you and me to be a pigeon for them to use, abuse, and misuse for their own device.
Yep.
Not on my watch. And I am right. You know, it's just, this is it. That's why I've come up with the ball doctrine. It's opposite that. And so I'm a busy man in New York City, New York Times. There are two people there. One is Diane Diamond. She's a journalist. Cheryl Atkinson's another one. And Leslie Keene. Leslie Keene. She's a very important person here. She's with the New York Times, and she is very on top of a lot of current events. She also believes that there is evidence of life after death, which is very amazing to me, and I love it because she talks about consciousness. Mm-hmm. That's important to me. So, the Agenda 21 book is my best-selling book, incidentally. So, and
good description, Dennis. Very good description.
We talk about, status of the nation. We're looking at the biggest populace right now, and that's our babies at the age of retirement. And after they pass on, we're left with a very small populace, which is our children. And with the indoctrination that's going on in schools, our children are left dependent on government.
Yep.
That's what's going on with Agenda 21 and all this population control that we're seeing across the nation, across the world.
Well said. You say it so well, Brian. Definitely. All you have to do is just go to DC, like we've been to, and look at those buildings over there. Look at the Congress. What does that place do? It really produces nothing. It's a bunch of statues and people, young and old, who are supposed to protect the nation, and they don't do that. They protect what they want rather than what we want.
They all have special interests.
Precisely. And this has got to change. That's why I'm really hitting it hard. Oh, they're not going to like me. But you know what? That's okay. I'm up to the task, and so is Richard Sanders. I think you are too, Brian. And I think
Absolutely.
Stephen is. And, the thing is, we have a duty here, a responsibility to do what's necessary. The good news is God provided me the knowledge to do what I must do. I mean, this is history making stuff. We are in a national crisis. Real one.
We are. We really are.
So I'm here. Dennis Andrew Ball has stepped to the plate. Rather than going to the Bahamas, which I'm not far from down here, I'm here. And I'm doing what needs to get done. By God's grace, it will happen. It will continue to happen. Because it is happening. And more 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 and more. And then bam. I mean, even Sean Hannity is talking about UFOs now. And, like I said,
in the bag, so they had to let it out because it was already out pretty much. And now they had to try to put a lid on it and control the narrative. So, but that says a lot, folks. It really does. I mean, considering how long they poo-pooed it for.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole book that I've written talks much about what Colonel Philip Corso was under the leadership of General Richard Trudeau. That was his boss. They took the debris from the debris fields. My attitude is that the UFO people have been here for thousands of years. They crashed into each other on a violent thunderstorm night and revealed themselves involuntarily. They took the debris, some of the debris, had it reverse engineered, again, revealed themselves again. Okay, so here we are.
Yep.
Right. There's this crop circles.
I'm of that belief as well. I mean, I think we got a lot of our electronic tech, like the fiber optics and stuff, from that crash retrieval, from what I've been able to discern and continue doing my own research.
Right. I mean, it all fits.
But not only that, my dad also concurred with that when he was alive, and so there's got to be something to it. It just makes sense if you think about it.
Oh, I know it does.
How quickly we went from a vacuum tube resistor or transistor to integrated circuits. Come on.
Right. You just can't invent that stuff. This is stuff that we discovered. We experienced it as a society in these laboratories, Los Alamos, Bell Labs, Lockheed Martin. So as far as getting back to
what I was going to say is I think it all comes down to is the system of checks and balances need to be in place, across our government and in these, medical fields, things of that nature, AI. You have to have a system of checks and balances. If not, you're just opening up the doors for misuse. I've used this example many, many times. Genetic engineering, it can be a great thing. They've grown skin on petri dishes, what have you, for burn victims. That's great. With the advancements of technology and ideas, they figured out they put these stem cells in there and in a form of an aerosol can and spray it on the burn victims, and they're left with no scars, not the painful surgical procedures with the skin graft. So there's a lot of benefits with technology, but then when it's being misused, and I'll use this example. They had a very good video the other day. They had this young boy that was in grade school, and they put some Oreo cookies in front of him and like $20,000-$30,000, and they said, "Which one do you want?" He said, "The Oreo cookie." And they said, "Well, there you go. We have children making decisions about what sex they want to be, and that's just so these mad scientists can profit in, these pharmaceutical companies."
Well, yeah,
it's just absolutely ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Look at how
many of these people that are in these industries,
and they're looking up at the adults that we leave them with for 8 hours out of the day to teach them. What are they teaching our children?
Certainly doesn't look like a risk.
Our children are our future. And when we look at what's going on, again, the biggest populace is going to be gone one day, and then we're left with a very small populace, which is our children, and they have an entitlement mentality and they're dependent on government to take care of them. So it seems to me there's only going to be one catastrophic event where all the world is dependent on government, and then you're going to see New World Order, and that's scary.
Yeah, absolutely is scary. Very scary. Very
Yeah,
scary.
I agree. That's why I'm
we're
here.
walking down a very fine line.
That's why I'm here, gang. I
Well,
appreciate what you just said.
We're at the top of the hour, so it was a great show today. And we will see you guys next week.
Right, let's go into segment 3 next time. We still got more to cover on the AI reshoring jobs to America. This is exciting to me, and we're making history.
Thank you for joining us, Brian. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. You guys have a blessed evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, let's wrap it up with the outro, and then we'll be done.